I spent the last 2.5 weeks playing Dragon's Dogma, and it's just about the only thing I've done. Eat, sleep, Dogma, eat, sleep, Dogma. Throw in a couple workouts in there, some chores, whatever. Steam says I have 69.9 hours in the game. It's pretty much been the only thing I've been playing, and I had no intention of playing it. And as a matter of fact, I've been avoiding watching content for Dragon's Dogma 2 because I have no money. I have no money, so I was just like, what's the point? I'm not gonna watch these trailers because I'm not gonna get it. Then my friend showed me, he literally, we were talking on Discord, he sent me a message. He was saying, oh, I know you're not gonna get it or anything, but I think you should probably watch this. It'll probably interest you. I was like, okay. I checked it out. It was the Vocation trailer for Mystic Spearhand. I watched it, and immediately I was like, yo, this is the fucking insect glaive from Monster Hunter. This is fantastic. This is so great. This is the coolest fucking thing I've ever seen. This is Dragon's Dogma? No. Have I been sleeping on this? After I watched the trailer, I was like, dog, you should not have fucking shown me that. I fucking hate you. You should not have shown me that goddamn trailer. Because then I started looking up the Steam page, and I was like, no. This looks good. This looks good. I can't. I don't have money, man. I can't do this. But my tax return came in, so I was like, I can't buy this. I shouldn't buy this. In my head, I was just already, yeah, I'm gonna get it. So I was like, all right, let me try out Dragon's Dogma. Let me try out Dark Arisen. Let me try out the first game so I can get an idea of what's going on in the second one. I played very, very little of the game before. I mean, like literally just the prologue and then just like the opening sequence in the starting village. I was getting some real big Monster Hunter 3 vibes with the Chimera battle in the prologue, the Grigori battle in the village, and then the fact that it was a seaside village. It reminded me a lot of Moga Village in Monster Hunter 3. And with it being a Capcom game, I was just like, God, take me back. Take me back to Monster Hunter 3. I miss it so much. My main monitor is an ultra-wide monitor, and I love it so much, and when games support it, it really is a completely different experience. This game hates it. This game it is not an ultra-wide game, and if you play it on an ultra-wide, everything is it's unplayable. The menus just completely go off screen. You just can't play it. There's really no other way to explain it. There is a fix for it, and it was pretty easy to implement. And originally I thought it was just gonna be like, oh, it just makes it work on an ultra wide. It's like, no, it made the game ultra wide, and it worked almost perfectly. Almost perfectly. The only thing that didn't work was the map UI. Whenever you go into the map, everything is like off. It's like this much off. It's like you have a location here, but the map marker is like right over there, and it's extremely annoying. But it was the only way to actually play the game on my monitor, and for the most part, that was pretty much it. For the most part, that was the only issue I had with it. The game itself is really ugly. It's an old game, and yeah, it makes sense, but like even for the time, the game is pretty fucking ugly, especially the characters. Most key characters look fine, but just about everyone else looks horrendous, especially the pawns. The pawns are ugly. They are so fucking ugly. But yeah, playing it on an ultra wide, it kind of mitigated that. Not the characters. The characters are going to be ugly no matter what, but the world itself, you could see a lot more. You could see everything around you, and it just made things feel more open. It made it feel more prettier. It, like, whenever you looked out into the distance, it makes you think like, man, this is a big game. This is a really big game. And it's a Capcom game too. It felt like the least Capcom game I've ever played. Okay, but let's get into the game itself. It's a bad game. It's a really, really bad game until it clicks. And it did click for me. 35 hours into the game. The game is clunky. There's hardly any flow to the movements, to your actions, to combat. It doesn't feel like it's clunky. There's no other way to explain it. There is no flow in the same way as Monster Hunter. There is no flow in the same way as Street Fighter or anything. It very much feels like you do an action, you're finished with the action, you do the next action, you're finished with that action, and then that's just how it is for the entire game. The menus suck. Controlling it sucks. I never got a handle of it. It's like I kind of like, I knew where the thing was that I wanted to do, but it felt like the button I was pressing should take me to that menu, but it never did. And I was like, oh, wrong menu. Gotta go back, click that button instead. It was pretty bad. Overall, the game, it felt like not much was ever very well explained to you. In gameplay, mechanics, and story, it felt like nothing was ever explained to you. Or like, I mean, there was explanations, but nothing was ever explained to you properly. On top of that, you are constantly gathering things. There is a crafting system, but there are like 300 useless items, both consumables and materials that I literally just never used. And about a fourth of the consumables all do the same thing. It's very much bloated in terms of items, even in weapons and armor as well. About like 99% of it was just completely useless. I chose the archer class, Strider, and then I ended up going into the advanced ranger class, but it didn't feel great until like 20 hours into the game, when I was like finally comfortable and like my stats also kind of like built up with every level. Let me just say, stamina sucks in this game. Stamina straight up blows. I was fucking burning through that shit so goddamn fast. And fortunately, within like the Strider Ranger classes, you have an option to get like a rolling somersault, like the way Link does in Legend of Zelda. And that was the only way to keep your flow of like moving forward, because otherwise, as soon as you run out of stamina, you're like winded and you have to stop for like 5 seconds. If you explore at the beginning of the game, you are brutally punished for it. The game is hard. It is a brutal, unforgiving game. I did a ton of exploring at the beginning of the game before I even went to the main city, and I was getting like one shot, two shot very frequently, and it was to the point where I had went into an area that I definitely was not supposed to be in, and everything was like one-shotting me, two-shotting me, and it was to the point where I was like, holy crap, I can't get out. Every opportunity I took to save, I had to save, which that's another thing. You have to save very, very often because the checkpoints in this game are nearly non-existent. Traveling in the game is not fun. It's really not fun. This game does not have a traditional fast travel system. You get these things called port crystals, and essentially you place them down around the world, and you're basically making your own fast travel points. The thing is, the game does not explain that to you. I'm pretty sure the game never tells you that you can actually fast travel, nor that these port crystals are used to fast travel. I mean, I'm pretty sure like a pop-up shows up, but it doesn't explain it very well at all. And it doesn't tell you like, oh, you can use it as many times as you want. Oh, you can place it down and you can pick it up. You can do whatever the fuck you want with this port crystal. It tells you nothing. At night, it is god awful. Dealing with your lantern is god awful. If you get wet at all, your lantern gets snuffed out. In order to get your lantern to work again, you have to go into the menu, remove your lantern. You have to actually wait out until the entire animation is done, go back into the menu, equip your lantern, and then you have to go through an entire animation of you equipping your lantern. If you get wet again, and it happens all the time, you will roll through water, you will walk under a little trickling stream of water coming overhead, it will snuff out your lantern. And the thing is, the lantern, as awful as it is to deal with, it is absolutely necessary. Nighttime in this game is so unbelievably dark. I played this game and I was like, holy crap. I mean, like, there are tons of games where they say like, oh, use your use a torch, use a lantern, use whatever to illuminate the darkness. But for the most part, it's not that bad. In Dragon's Dogma, you literally can't see anything. At the beginning of the game, when you're extremely weak, and if you're exploring, if you're going out of your way like I did, it is fucking terrifying. There are wolves everywhere. They come out of the just straight up inky, pitch black darkness. It is horrifying. You cannot see. I do not recommend traveling at night. In this game, you get to have companions called pawns. You get to create your one main pawn, and then you can go online and sort of recruit 2 pawns from other players around the world or whatever. These fuckers are next level stupid. And they never shut the fuck up. You can adjust the speech rate, but it only seems to affect your pawn. And you can turn off their speech entirely, but you can't lessen the rate. And it's not exactly something you want to do, as the pawns seem to learn from the experience they gain from helping other people online. They literally have like quest knowledge. They'll give you tips. They'll say like, oh, maybe we should check this cave out right here. Or like, oh, hey, I know I have some information about this quest. Hey, how about you follow me? You can follow me, I know the way. And that's actually really cool. It's like, but it's also really annoying when they don't shut the fuck up. And the thing is, you don't exactly want to turn it off entirely, because what they have to say is helpful, especially when they have tips and tricks about whatever quest that you're doing at the time. So it really sucks that your only option is to entirely shut them up or only lessen the rate of your pawn, which doesn't really help. I'm being serious, they never shut the fuck up. On top of that, they hardly ever do what you want them to do. Or at the very least, your main pawn seems to always be significantly stupider than the online pawns, which I don't really understand why, but that's just the way it is. I mean, the amount of times my pawn said, "They're weak to fire!" and then she casts a lightning enchantment for my weapons. It's literally the entire playthrough. That was just my entire experience of the game. It's her yelling, "Oh, they're weak to this one thing. Here, have this completely useless element that won't help you at all." You have commands on the D-pad that are like, "Oh, go over there," or "Oh, hey, come help me," or "Hey, come on, stop fucking around over there, come over here." A pro tip, don't go into this game with a full team of mages and sorcerers. Enemies can pin you, and when your pawns are stuck casting magic, which takes a long time to cast, you're really screwed. There was a point in the game where a mimic got me, and for whatever reason, it might have been because I was over encumbered, that I couldn't like struggle out of that situation, and my pawns were literally just casting magic, and then I died. So that was fun. The story makes no sense. And they throw a bunch of characters at you that you have absolutely no reason to give a crap about, while also at the same time kind of expecting you to know their name and exactly who they are. For example, Fornival. Who the hell is Fornival? I have to like defend him in a trial or find evidence to whether he's guilty or not, but I'm like, who the fuck is Fornival? I've never met this person. I've never seen this person in my life. That little court jester Festy, I don't know, the little devil pedophile. I didn't trust him for one fucking second throughout the entire game, and it turns out he's a literal nothing character. Oh, the Duchess. For whatever reason, the game is like beelining you to make her your love interest. All I can really say is, if you know, you know. That character is literally the worst love interest to ever exist in a video game. Oh yeah, and what's up with that busty money-grubbing Jew? Madeline. I wifed her up as soon as I could. And it happened eventually, but not when I was expecting it to. Because the game kind of gives you whatever love interest it wants to give you. I literally gave someone a ring, and I got someone completely different as a love interest. Yeah, also there's a cult, I guess. And what the hell is an arisen? Wait, I'm not the only one? There's an old guy in a cave. Okay, let me go talk to him. This was literally how the conversation went. He was like, I'm the Dragon Forge, and I've lived for about 1 billion years, and I too am arisen. And I'm like, okay, cool. What's an arisen? It's someone who was touched by the dragon. It's like, what the fuck does that mean? What makes us so special? It's just that we have a destiny to deal with the dragon or some shit. It makes no sense. He literally gives you no fucking answers. Oh, and speaking of, where are all the dragons? There were like no dragons in this game. All right, going forward to spoiler territory. It took me a little less than 35 hours to reach the final quest. You return to the prologue area. The game ends where it all began, and that's a cool fucking trope. I love that. The final boss fight with Grigori was significantly more than what I was expecting, especially since there was a lot more to it than anything else before. As a matter of fact, like every other boss fight there was nothing different between said boss fight and really any other enemy encounter. But with Grigori, it felt like extremely cinematic. And the thing was that I spoiled this game for me like over 10 years ago, because I was never really expecting to ever play this game. It was just something that I've heard of. It's like, oh, people seem to like this game. Okay, well, I don't really ever plan on playing it, so let me just, I don't know, check out the ending or something. And the only thing that I saw was the princess being chased by the goblins and Grigori. And all I remember was the fight just being there. And then I thought that was the end of the game. That was over 10 years ago. I mean, like before I started this game, I remembered like that was it. I remembered the room. I remembered the princess. I remembered Grigori being there and nothing else. So it was extremely, extremely satisfying to finally fight Grigori and to have this whole chase sequence within the temple, fighting him out in the battlefield, fucking running through, like going tower to tower, using the ballista, having a fucking not really a sky battle, but like you were on his back flying up a bajillion feet in the air, striking him in his weak spot in the back, his heart. That was legitimately amazing. And to see it all in ultra wide as well was legitimately gorgeous. Aside from the UI elements, every part of the game worked perfectly fine in ultra wide, and it made it a completely different experience. I mean, like I never experienced the game before, but let me tell you, if you play the game in ultra wide, it is something else. Throughout the game, I couldn't really get a handle of the music, with the pawns yelling in my ear and always focusing on the task at hand, or running from location to location, or actually like being in combat. But during the Grigori fight, I felt like there was something there that, even though I could barely focus on it due to the fight itself and the dialogue, I felt like, oh man, I gotta go back and check that song, because it felt like there was something special there. After killing Grigori, my first reaction was, what the hell did I just play? What the fuck was this game? This was horrible, like 99% of the way through, and then the final 1% was like, this is great. This was fantastic. That final fight was something else. And then your expectations are completely subverted. I thought that was the end of the game, and then you get the whole cutscene of Grand Soren being destroyed, of the sky turning fucking dark, and like this like ash fucking raining down or whatever. Dragon Forge guy is turned to dust. The Duke aged like 1 billion fucking years, and then you go back to Grand Soren and you go to the Duke. He tries to fucking kill you. You have to escape. Escaping into the Everfall, that was cool as shit. Just everything about the Everfall was super fucking dope. And then you get your 20 wake stones or whatever the fuck, and hey, God. you end up meeting God, you end up fighting God, and God turns out to be the character from the prologue. What the What the hell? And then he has that like dual male female voice, and like he gives you a chance to ask him questions, but during his whole like speech while you're fighting him and all the questions he answers, I'm like, what the fuck are you saying? You're not making any sense. And after everything, my final conclusion was, this is the Evangelion of video games. This is the fucking Evangelion of video games. Not much is ever explained to you throughout the entirety of the game. Even at the very end, when God is explaining things to you, he makes very little sense, and it kind of felt like a cop-out for running out of time and money, just like the ending to Evangelion, where like the final like 2 or 3 episodes were literally just characters standing there. Or how about the scene of Asuka and Rei standing in an elevator for like 5 fucking minutes? Even though the ending felt like a cop-out, I still really liked it. And I don't know, I like the concept of fucking JRPG. You fight rats in the beginning and in the end you fight God. I love that trope. I think it's a fantastic trope, and I'll never fucking get tired of it. Let me just say that. Everything after Grigori came completely out of left field, and I fucking loved it. People love this game. It is a cult classic. I would say it's the very definition of a cult classic, just like fucking Donnie Darko. Once I was actually done with the game, I checked out an IGN review, and the video was one of the worst and most unwatchable videos I have ever seen, because there was a horrendous song in the background and it was like blaring, and I was like, this video is fucking awful. But the score was shockingly favorable. After everything that I just went through, I was like, I didn't enjoy the game until the very fucking end. I mean, in the end, I loved it, but it was crap. The experience was crap for majority of the game. But that's just the kind of person I am. Like, a game can be bad most of the way through, but if it ends like really fucking solidly, I'll be like, yeah, that's a good game. I might not recommend it to someone, but it's a good game. And most people aren't like that. So I was really, really shocked when IGN, a very like, I don't know, normie type of like publication or whatever, I was extremely shocked when they gave it a favorable review. Personally, I really like Evangelion, but if someone were to tell me that they don't like it, I would be like, yeah, that makes sense. I agree with you. I understand what you're saying. And so if like anyone were to also tell me like, oh yeah, I don't like Dragon's Dogma, that game was really bad, I would be like, yeah, no, I agree. I totally fucking agree. But just like Evangelion got the end of Evangelion movie, which kind of made up for those final nonsense episodes, Dragon's Dogma got Dark Arisen. It was an enhanced re-release which added more nonsensical lore, and it was a much more palatable game. Like I said, fast travel wasn't really a thing, but what was there, it was there in a consumable form. You could only fast travel as long as you had a certain item, but it was used up as soon as you used it. Like, it was gone. You'd essentially have to farm that item. But in Dark Arisen, you get an item called an Eternal Fairy Stone, which lets you fast travel as many times as you want. On top of that, Dark Arisen got proper post-game content. I went into this hoping I would enjoy the game and see if I really wanted to spend money that I honestly don't have for Dragon's Dogma 2. And I didn't really enjoy it until the very end. And all throughout the experience, I kept asking myself, do I like this game? do I genuinely like this game? I liked the themes. I like the idea of it. I mean, like, everything about this game just screams me. But it's just executed so horrendously until the very end. But it really was the way that the game wrapped up that I was just like, man, I hate this game, but I kind of love it. I kind of love it. And when I went into the game, I didn't really have any intention of 100%ing it, but my video game autism kicked in and said, I don't know, just give hard mode a little try. Hey, go for it. You love games with New Game Plus. And let me just say, New Game Plus was a blast. It was so fucking fun. Everything you've got from your first playthrough is carried over, including fast travel points. Like I said, you get these things called port crystals. You get to set your own fast travel points. All of that stays. It doesn't get taken away from you. As soon as you reach the main city, which can be done like in an instant, you can start fast traveling everywhere, and that is a godsend. It felt like a completely different game after that. If there was one thing I was gonna do, it was complete all the side quests and grab the one achievement that required you to do that. And honestly, doing that one achievement, it gave me a newfound appreciation for the characters, and it gave the game so much more life that I didn't even know it had. I mean, your first playthrough, you will 100% miss so many side quests that really flesh out a lot of these characters. And after doing that second playthrough, it had a lot of similarities to my all-time favorite game, Nier Replicant. For Nier Replicant, you definitely have to do multiple playthroughs to get the full experience of the game. And to an extent, I would say the same thing about Dragon's Dogma. I would say you're not really going to experience much of anything from a single playthrough. But doing multiple playthroughs, and I would even say have a guide open for those side quests, because doing those side quests, I would say is kind of worth it, just to get to know these characters and everything. But both Nier Replicant and Dragon's Dogma, doing all those extra quests, you get to know these characters a lot better. You get extremely familiar with the map, to the point where it almost feels like the map itself is sort of a character with how well you get to know it. By the time I was doing my second playthrough, I was like, all right, well, I already know how this quest goes. I'm going from this point to this point, but I already have my fast travel set, so I can just go straight over there, take care of what I need to take care of. All right, I'm back to the main city. Okay, I gotta go to my home village, pick up these quests, do these quests, turn in these quests, check out the notice board, go from point A to point B to C, C to D. I know exactly what to do. I know exactly where to go. I've been to these places multiple times. I mean, the map is pretty big, but what really makes you familiarize with the map is the key places dotted around, especially since quests have you going to back and forth between places. And honestly, I love that about Nier Replicant, and this game very much reminded me of that. But having that knowledge from the last playthrough, I was able to complete quests really fast. But one of the coolest things that I've never seen another game do, since you get to keep everything from the last playthrough, and I mean everything, you get to keep everything. Sometimes you are left with items for key quests that you had from the previous playthrough, and if a person in your next playthrough, they're gonna request the same item, if you already have that item, you can just give it to them, and that's it. You're done. You don't actually have to do that quest. For example, there's a key quest in the game that requires you to find a ring that's been stolen from the castle. Well, if you made a forgery of that ring in your last playthrough, still technically have that ring, whether you have the forgery or the actual ring itself. You can turn either one in to complete the quest. I already had the ring, and I was like, oh, all right, let me just make another forgery and then turn it in. I mean, that was it. Quest complete. You never actually had to find the person who stole the ring in the first place. You never had to meet that person at all in your second playthrough. That was fucking cool. I've never played a game that lets you do that. That was awesome. At this point during my second playthrough, I was starting to frequent Dragon's Dogma threads on 4chan, and I was understanding and I was enjoying the conversations being had. The tips given were helpful, and even people online were saying that this game is hot fucking garbage, but they love it. And at that point I was like, yes, that is exactly how I feel. The game is pure fucking garbage, but it's also amazing. I also watched the Dragon's Dogma anime on Netflix, which I had completely forgotten that it existed, and I thought it was pretty fucking fantastic. I loved it. I did everything I could possibly do within that second playthrough. I became even more powerful. I got the extra endings. Man, I was hooked. And at that point I was like, fuck, I'm gonna 100% the game. I'm gonna 100% the game. With the side quest achievement done, which is, I would say, is easily the hardest one, everything was really straightforward. Since actually finishing the game requires you to go straight into a new game plus, I got to the very end of a third playthrough, which was even faster than my second playthrough. I once again had a blast playing through it even a third time. The post-game content, Bitter Black Isle, that was added into Dark Arisen, it was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Honestly, I thought it was going to be some sort of randomly generated map type of shit, which I'm not exactly a fan of. Like, it's okay in some games, but I'm not totally a fan of that stuff. It is a set map, and it was actually pretty fun to go through. There are checkpoints, which made it a lot more bearable because it is pretty decently long. And at the very end, fighting the new boss, Damon, it was pretty freaking cool. And to 100% of the game, you have to do Bitter Black Isle again, but the best part, oh my god, the best part about it, doors that you had to unlock the first round through, they were just open. The dungeon was, I could tell it was significantly harder, but since I could just dash past everything and go fight the true form of Damon, that was, ooh, that was very, very nice. It probably enhanced the game a lot more for me, because if I had to go through it all over again, it probably would have felt like a drag. So I think that was an extremely, extremely good choice to have those things open and just to be able to just run through. And just like the Grigori fight, the music in the Damon fight heavily caught my attention. So honestly, after this video, I'm going to hit up that soundtrack. I have it downloaded. I'm going to listen to that soundtrack and pick out my favorite songs and add it to my playlist. Speaking of, that awful song that was playing in the background of the IGN review, hey, it turns out it was the original title theme, but it was taken out of the Dark Arisen version. It turns out that song is fucking amazing. That shit is baller as fuck, and I've been listening to it non-stop for the past couple of days. Once again, after the post-game super boss, lore makes no sense, but it'll be fun to watch an explainer video on it all. Again, the Evangelion of video games. The final stretch for 100% was fun. Overall, the achievements were challenging, but not impossible. My final achievement was to tackle speedrun mode, just like before. You get to keep everything. It's set to like normal or easy or whatever. You just gotta complete it as fast as you can. It took me 41 minutes to beat the game on speedrun mode. I had a blast. That shit was so fucking fun. Alright, final thoughts. Dragon's Dogma is an amazing game, and it's insane to me how much I ended up liking it as soon as it clicked. But I cannot recommend this game to anyone. This game is a hot pile of fucking garbage. It really is. No joke, the game really didn't feel like it was really that good until you reach the very end of the game. I mean, like, I've said that multiple times throughout this video. And then again, you won't really get a true appreciation for it unless you end up doing New Game Plus and actually doing like those side quests, which I would say is totally worth doing. Look, I'm the type of person who can love a bad game, and it's really the experience I had with the game, and maybe not necessarily the game itself, that really enhances it for me. I mean, I'm always going to remember that for my first playthrough of Dragon's Dogma, I thought it was a hot pile of fucking garbage, but I ended up loving it. And that's so weird. That's so fucking weird. But that experience enhances the game even more for me. It really does. Honestly, Dragon's Dogma is a bad game, and while I do love it, I can't in good consciousness recommend it to anyone. Dragon's Dogma 2, on the other hand, looks fucking amazing, and it looks like it's the game that the director Hideaki Itsuno intended the original to be, especially when some parts of the intro are shot for shot the same as the original. And then there's the mystery behind the title screen missing the number 2, which director Itsuno's response to that was, "All we can say is nothing in this game is unintentional." Dragon's Dogma 2 is very clearly what Dragon's Dogma 1 should have been. And just a reminder, Hideaki Itsuno has been directing the Devil May Cry series for a long time now, and those games do not disappoint. I mean, Devil May Cry 5 was an amazing game. Capcom has been killing it with nearly all of their releases lately. And Dragon's Dogma 2 looks like it's going to be a real contender for Game of the Year, so I am super excited to play that game. And that's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed the video. I had a blast playing through Dragon's Dogma, and I'm glad I was able to share my experience with you. I hope to see you in the next one. See ya.